what you're worth. Now go out and get what you're worth.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show. Jim Cella and Johnny Parlay with the facts. So relax, grab a drink, then let's get back.
Welcome, fans, to our fantasy football wide receiver segment. I am your host, Jim Cella. You're listening to The Spread. Dash, you got some wide receivers for us to talk about this week?
Yeah, Tier 1, the elite receivers. Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson, if he plays, Demaryius Thomas, Dez Bryant, A.J. Green doesn't look like he will play, Brandon Marshall, and Jordy Nelson, who is the number one receiver in fantasy.
Well, we all know Antonio Brown's always going to have 5 catches for at least 50 yards because, God forbid, he doesn't get that streak going. So maybe he might be a good play if you have him.
Brandon Marshall actually had a really big bounce-back game last week. And like we kept saying, you just got to keep playing him. And it looks like he's back to form now. Tier 2, we have must-starts right now. Steve Smith Sr., Jeremy Maclin is on a bye. Elshon Jeffrey, Emmanuel Sanders, Randall Cobb, and T.Y. Hilton just made it on my list.
I like my boy T.Y. Hilton. He plays with my other boy Andrew Luck. Indianapolis is doing me well on my picks this week, so I like T.Y. They're going to get a lot of passes his way, a lot of passes Reggie's way. Luck loves chucking the ball down the field, man, so he's going to put up points.
Emmanuel Sanders actually had a down week for the first time last week. But he's been such a beast all season. I keep playing this guy no matter what right now. You know Peyton Manning's going to find him the ball.
Manning just finds everybody the ball. It's crazy.
Tier 3, Kelvin Benjamin, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Wallace, Reggie Wayne, and Golden Tate.
I maybe go with Mike Wallace. Chicago's defense has been pretty garbage this year. Definitely not what they used to be when Brian Urlacher was there. And Tannehill's building a better rapport with Wallace, so he could definitely put up some points.
Yeah, I really like Wallace. He's been consistent all season. Deshaun Jackson is so off and on, but over the past 2 weeks, he has 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. Right now, I wouldn't want to miss that, so I play him. Tier 4 here, we have Andre Johnson at Pittsburgh, Michael Floyd at Oakland, Percy Harvin is going to drop down my list now that I think about it. 2 more here, Mohamed Sanu and Larry Fitzgerald.
All you got to know is to play Floyd because he's going against Oakland and they're garbage, so he's going to get a lot of touchdowns.
The reason I said Percy Harvin is going to drop down my list because if you haven't heard, he has been traded to the Jets, and I hate the Jets offense. I like Chris Ivory, but everyone else, no, I don't want him, even Percy Harvin. Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Floyd, I like both of these guys with Palmer. I've been talking Palmer up. I know he's not the greatest quarterback, but he's better than what they had. And Floyd and Fitzgerald should find consistent fantasy points now. Tier 5 here, Ruben Randall, Roddy White, Wes Welker, and Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins might start getting more balls his way. Cal Orton took over at quarterback for Buffalo. Watkins faced Revis last week, but he's had 40 targets in his previous 4 games, so the balls are going to be coming his way. Just hopefully they'll be going into the end zone.
Ruben Randall should get a tick up in his fantasy value with Victor Cruz done for the season. He is definitely their best receiver right now. And Wes Welker only had 1 target last week. He caught it, but it was in garbage time, so he did nothing, but I expect him to have somewhat of a bounce back this week. Tier 6, James Jones out of Oakland. Cecil Shorts had a big game after coming back last week. Brian Quick and Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen's kind of been a disappointment. He's definitely a better talent than Floyd and Royal, but he's only had 1 big game, and some people might have called that game against Seattle a big game, but I think he really only had 5 catches. But against Richard Sherman, I guess that is pretty tough.
Yeah, I'm not happy with Keenan Allen. He's on my fantasy team. James Jones is owned in less than 50% of the leagues. He's going up against Arizona. They let up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. He's been consistent all season. I think he had 1 down week. He has 30 points over his past 2 weeks in PPR. If you need a receiver, he's not a bad choice. Tier 7 here. Anquan Bolden, Terrence Williams, Brandon Cooks, Bernard Hopkins, Andre Holmes out of Oakland, and Allen Robinson from Jacksonville.
I go with Bolden, man. San Francisco's playing against Denver. It's going to be a shootout. Bolden had his best game last week in his first touchdown, but it's definitely going to keep increasing. Kaepernick looks like he's playing a little better as the season goes on, so expect Bolden's numbers to go up because Crabtree has really not been as effective as people hoped.
And Vernon Davis hasn't been the greatest tight end this season either, so yes, I really like Bolden.
Injuries don't help with Davis either.
Like James Jones, Andre Holmes is another guy that's owned in 50% of the leagues, and he's also in Oakland. Like we said, going up against Arizona, who lets up the most points to fantasy wide receivers. He has 20 targets and 3 TDs in his past 2 games. Derek Carr likes him, so either I like James Jones more, but I'm thinking Andre Holmes could be a guy who puts up big points again this week. Tier 8, Malcolm Floyd, Kendall Wright, Michael Crabtree, Marquise Colston, and Torrey Smith.
I like Colston. He's always been a good fantasy performer. He's going up against Detroit, and I know they give up the fewest points per game, and I think the fewest points to fantasy wide receivers. He's only had one game over 10 fantasy points this year, but with no Jimmy Graham, they're going to be looking for somebody with a big body. Colston's first year, he was almost like a hybrid tight end wide receiver, so they might be able to use him in the slot a little more and create some mismatches.
Yeah, if you have to use any of these receivers, I feel for you. I hope you found someone in one of our first 7 tiers to put in. I really don't like Torrey Smith. I don't like Michael Crabtree. Malcolm Floyd's had a pretty good season, but like he said, Keenan Allen's the better receiver, so I'm not really trusting any of these guys. I would go Malcolm Floyd if anyone.
Yeah, Rivers is playing well, so Floyd at least has the opportunity to have a big game.
The last tier here, tier 9, Eddie Royal, Robert Woods from Buffalo, Pierre Garçon, Odell Beckham. This is Victor Cruz's replacement. And last, Marcus Wheaton.
Well, just because I'm a Yinzer, I want to talk about Wheaton. I've been hoping and praying he starts to have bigger games. We're going up against Houston, and they give up the 3rd most points to fantasy wide receivers. Wheaton had 11 targets last week, but I think only maybe 4 catches, and he's been slightly disappointing. He's making some big catches, though, so maybe if he can build on that and have one big game, build on that, another big game, we might be able to get him going. We hope we can get him going.
The Steelers have to find some second receiver out there. Robert Woods is a guy I'm looking at. He's getting it done with Kyle Orton at quarterback again. Kyle Orton is making players better. He has 26 targets over the past 3 weeks. I wouldn't play Robert Woods this week, but I would keep an eye on him. If he has another big week, I'd hurry up and snatch him up.
Yeah, you never know who. If somebody gets hurt or you need a bye week fill in, he could provide some points in a jam for you.
2 stashes here. Remember, Josh Gordon will be coming back somewhat soon, so it's time to put him on your bench. He needs to be owned in 100% of the leagues. And for very, very, very deep leagues, Murphy in Tampa Bay, since they signed him 3 games ago, he's done nothing but put up fantasy points. He's getting the targets. He's making the catches. He's scoring touchdowns.
Are they playing the Steelers again? Is that why you're telling them to pick up Murphy?
That's one of the games I think that was actually the first game he played. He came in and tore him up. He's looking good. I like Vincent Jackson out there. I like Mike Evans out there, but Murphy's doing it too. So just keep an eye on him.
I hate Murphy as a dude, but he may put up some points for you. But that wraps up our fantasy wide receiver segment. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Dash, thanks for sitting in with me. You can follow us at bet_the_spread for any other fantasy advice, any questions you have. Check out our Facebook page for all our segments. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. And everybody just have a good night. Peace out.